when the rate of change outside an organization is greater than the rate of change inside the organization, then you know the end is near. And that's what leadership guru Jack Welsh said. So that's the reason that I have invited Mia to come and join us today, because she has written a book about AI specifically for leaders. Because as leaders, it can be very challenging. What are we supposed to do? How are we supposed to guide the organization? And then the dreaded question, are people going to lose their jobs because of this? So Mia, welcome to the Write, Learn and Earn show. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what made you decide to write this book?
Thank you for having me here. Let's go back to 2015 when I was running a big digital transformation project for healthcare regarding cancer diagnosis. And that's when I got in contact with AI. It was during a healthcare and IT fair. And I was listening to a seminar where they showed the possibilities of AI. And I just felt this wave of fear all over me, because I thought I was a very competent person, being a management consultant, running this big project. But then I was like, if this is possible, what is left for me to do? And what is the right thing for me to do? So I really felt this fear of losing the ground. And now when we have the wave of generative AI now being available for everyone, I believe that this is the wave of fear that many are feeling and don't know how to grasp this. So I just want to give this as a legacy to really, if this book, which is a short read, just 1 hour read, so it's like go from confused to curious in just 1 hour. If this can help us minimize the segregation in the world, because there will be a larger segregation and it will happen fast between the ones who embrace AI and those who fall behind. So this is not for the ones who are already tech-savvy AI experts. It's not for them, but this is for the ones who are a bit scared and a bit confused. Those are the ones I want to help.
You know, you're so right about the fear, because I watch a lot of movies and occasionally I watch sci-fi. You know, there's movies where the robots take over the world.
Yeah.
I think people have that kind of feeling. And as I go through LinkedIn, I've seen a shift. There have been some people that literally 5 months ago I would say, I would never, ever use AI. Our business is purely authentic and you can't find AI in any of our communication. And then probably about 3 months after that, they are now singing the praises of AI. What happens in someone's mind to create that kind of shift from complete fear to we are adopting this in our business?
I think it's a lot of different things. It's like it could be the external pressure. It could also be both curiosity, but it could also be the threats. I mean, the fear of I will not touch AI, and hence if I don't touch AI, it will not affect me. Let's just go back to see how it was with the mobile phones. When the mobile phones came with better and better cameras, a lot of the photographers were like, no, this is not good for us. And it's like, we are the ones running the photography show. But it's like, look at it now. What it actually has done is raised the awareness of good photography. And the hobby interest is bigger than ever. And it's like, so there's so much space for the photographers to do the work, because there is such an interest and people value their services much more now. So, and I think that's what can happen with AI as well. It's like, it can look scary. It's like, don't come here into my profession. But once you embrace it, you can see that, oh, this can actually help even more.
One of the things that you mentioned in the book, and this is not from a management perspective, but you actually mentioned that you used AI to assist you with writing the book. Now, as an Amazon specialist, I know that Amazon is asking questions like, did you write this book using AI? Did you use AI assistance? And so tell us a little bit about how you embrace that.
Yeah, and there is the most famous most well-known chatbot is the Chat GPT. And that is also my abbreviation for how to use a chatbot, and that is the GPT. So if you can think about the G being the generate. So it's like if you have something that you want to have generated, you can send a prompt and you will get data content from it. Or the P, which is process. If you have some content that you want to have processed, you want to have it translated, summarized, written in different voice, that is how you can feed the chatbot with data content, and you will get it out in different format. Or the T, that stands for target. If you want to you want to reach a new target, something you haven't done before, then you can also use the chatbot to really help you reach that target. And so that is how I've used. So that is my abbreviation GPT. That is a way to really see what can I use it for, because sometimes you can feel that, okay, I can send in a question and I get an answer back. But that's just one way to do it. It's like you are already using a lot of data content and you can feed that in and get it processed in different ways. That is often where you find the most of the productivity savings and efficiency, that it can help you with your tasks that might be mundane or too high volumes. So when I used it for my book, I also used it for this GPT. So the T was for the talk, and it's like, okay, if I want to write a book about this, and this is my target audience, and these are the fears I think, and so to really elaborate on the persona, to really give me a good view on who am I writing this for, and then it was easy to really prime my mind before I started to write. And then I also used it to elaborate on the chapters. It's like, what is a good way to combine the chapters? Which is the order? So I actually switched the order mid-process, because I was like, now I feel that this is more a suitable order. And I also asked a question, which is the MECE, which is one of those management consultancy terms, which stands for mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive, which means that if these are my chapters, does this mean that it's mutually exclusive, that the content will fit into only one of the chapters and not be like, should this be in a different chapter? And if we look at all the chapters, is it really collectively exhaustive? That it's like, is it really covering everything? And this is the bouncing chat I had with Chat GPT, say that, okay, these are the chapters. Is this a collective exhaustive, or is it something I'm missing? It's like, yeah, man, what about this one? I see that. So I really resonate to feel that this book will cover the area that I want. And then I also used it to elaborate on some illustration. It's like, how could I illustrate this type of concept, like the thing about the skills, that the more we start to use AI like a chatbot, the more we are losing the skills. So for example, if you're sending in Excel, if you're doing formulas in Excel, and you're struggling with a formula in Excel, and then you start to ask ChatGPT, can you help me with this formula? And then you get the formula back, and you put it into Excel, and you continue. And then you say, wait a minute, why am I doing this? Why am I not asking ChatGPT to just give me the answer that I wanted from Excel? And once you start to do that, then you're losing your muscle memory of the Excel formulas. So we need to be aware that when we're starting to use this, we are actually going to lose some skills, and we need to evaluate, is this a skill that is needed, or is it a skill that is no longer serving? Excel skill might look like, oh, that might not be needed, but we need to look at the human social skills as well. It is a big fear that people feel that it's very comfortable talking to a chatbot, and we're losing that context of how we really have a conversation with humans.
Yeah, what I see in my business, because I'm a writer as well, is that I look at research and I say to myself, how long does it usually take me to research this particular aspect? And can I use that time more effectively? So, for example, I'm writing a fiction book at the moment called Dangerous Words, and in there I have a character who's a former Marine who's turned into a mercenary, and I'm going to be writing a scene where he's driving off somewhere. And then I ask myself a question like, what kind of a car would this guy drive? Now, typically, that would take me going to a car dealership, either online or physically, going through lots and lots and lots of different cars. And I just simply don't have the time for that. So I said, give 3 or 4 suggestions of the kind of car a Marine who's turned mercenary would drive and describe what that car is going to look like for me. So it spewed out a vehicle, and then I took the name of that vehicle, went through to a car dealership, had a look at the vehicle, and then I said, yes, I can actually see the character using this. Now, typically that would have taken me maybe 3 hours to do that research. Now I get it within a few seconds after me asking the question. And so to your point, yes, I have to research as an author, but I don't really need a skill set on being a car dealership expert. I don't need to be a car expert to write. So that part can be sent to Chat GTP. The other interesting thing I saw in this book was about exercise, because the place that we stay at has got a gym, and for a short period of time, a section of the gym, which is my favorite part of the gym, got closed down for maintenance. And then I saw in your book that there are actually AI services where you can go for a run in a kind of environment that you're looking for. I found that super exciting. What other cool things can AI do for people?
AI can actually augment most of the things that we are doing. So I'm still pondering on the question, is like, is there a job that will not be augmented by AI? There will be many jobs that will not be replaced by AI, yes. So, but will there be jobs that will not be augmented by AI? I don't think so, because I mean everything where you are actually adding value in a process and you're doing it repeatedly, then you have some data, and when you have data, then AI can improve it. It can augment it. And when we're talking about the exercises, like exercises is a lot of data. Like I wear this Oura ring, the wearable. So that is the first thing I do in the morning. I look like, okay, what is my stats for how I've been sleeping? And that is how I get insights into how is my body working? What can I do to improve my sleep? What can I do to create better habits? So we now embrace the data because we can see the rewards so quickly that we can really see, we can also improve it. And it's a part of our brains that we want to improve a measurement. That's why it's so important what we measure, make sure that we measure something that we really want to move the needle in the right direction. So
I did notice that in your book you did actually say there's a process that when you introduce AI into your business, that you are measuring all the time whether it is actually making an impact.
And that is also to not get stuck in just playing around, because it is a very shiny object. So if we can easily get distracted to just play around, and then we will actually fall behind, because the ones who are smart will look at, okay, what is the value that this can bring? And I think that is the way we are entering now, that now we are over the hype of what really happened, how could we use it, and now we're starting to see that, okay, what are we really going to use it for? Where can it really leverage for our business? So people are starting to get more comfortable. They are beyond the plug and play now, as I say in the book. And we're now into the customize and calibrate it. We're looking at, okay, if this is our business, where can AI and automation actually help us to leverage? Like you said, that was a good example with your research. It's like within writing a book, there is always a lot of research. You can actually speed up the research time to find the fitting characteristics and focus more on actually the story. So you can actually put more emphasis on where you are making the difference. And I hope that that is what is coming out of this, that we are looking into that. Okay, how can we use AI and automation, because those two together makes the really powerful mix. How can we use AI and automation, hence intelligent automation, to really improve the lives of our employees, so we can leverage our business, so we can have better customer experience, we can have better employee experience, we can increase the revenue, and we can also increase the productivity, because there's so much potential, but we just need to see where do we have the bottlenecks, where do we have our strategy, where do we want to go, instead of just spreading thin all over.
One thing that I would like us to chat about, which has popped up in several discussions, is bias. So recently, there's a gentleman that I know who's been using AI to create images. And there are certain cultural groups that are just excluded from these images, which is very frustrating for him because he lives in South Africa. And if you have a look at the cultural diversity of South Africa, we can't be having images that only show one kind of cultural group. Now, what would your recommendations be on how to deal with bias when it comes to AI?
As David Rock says, everyone who has a brain has a bias. So we just need to acknowledge that we have biases, and also start to create the checkpoints. And if we are starting to use AI, we need to also be aware of what are the decisions that we need to make, what are the checks we need to make sure that we are not falling into the trap of that everything will be mainstream with AI, because it will be more stereotype. And that is, I think the image generation has been a great part of this discussion, because when we were just talking about the words, we didn't see it as much. But once we started to generate images, that's when we really see the bias in the data. And if we look into all the data that is being used, well, the main data around the world is white middle-aged men. So yeah, that will of course be the one that is generated in the future as well, because it is based on predictability. And that's why it's so important to put in this human revision, which is being done now. So now we can see a better representation, but it's also why I put so much emphasis on the book, because it's like we're not there yet. It's like we are in many ways, especially if we're using not as complex models, we can end up with stereotypical images, and it will actually skew our message. It will damage our branding. It will damage the message we want to convey.
So I think that the big thing is to make sure that your business has got policies and procedures in place, so that we can use it both from an ethical perspective, but also an educated perspective. Because if you don't understand the limitations of AI, then you are going to just go with what it says without actually understanding the impact of the output that you're getting.
Yeah, and so in one way, it's not something new, because as long as we've had systems to use within the company and organization, we've had IT policy, we've had information policies in place. It's just that this becomes so much more important now. So we just need to make sure that our employees are understanding them. I mean, whenever I'm on a train or flying, I still can hear people on the next row sitting talking business secrets. It's like, yeah. So and that is the thing. It's like, be aware of what you can share and what you should share.
That's true. Security is becoming such a big thing with hacking. I actually read somewhere that South Africa which is where I'm based, has got a lot of cyber crime and banking crime that we're actually not aware of. So you have to use common sense in your normal life, but you have to use common sense online as well. Yeah, tell us a little bit about, different AI options that we actually don't know are part of our life, but that we use every day.
Whenever you are being recommended something, if you are buying on Amazon or you are listening to music on Spotify or you are in Netflix, whenever there is a recommendation engine, that is AI. That is finding the patterns and can hence predict what is something that is suitable for you. So that is a very common one. When we're using translation engines, that we've been using for quite some time as well. That is where we've had AI for many, many years. So those, I would say, translation and recommendations are probably the ones that everyone is like, oh yeah, I already use that. When we use the voice services like Siri and Alexa as well. When we use map GPS services. So it's like, it's already there within the SaaS services, within all the applications we are using in our phones. There are already a lot of AI. What is coming now is that the things that you were doing in front of a computer or with your phone, you can now start to use AI for. It can really help you. And not only that, when you combine AI with the robotics, that's when you can actually do it out in the field as well. So it's the combination. So we talk a lot about AI, but it's just that AI is ramping up what you can do with automation, what you can do with the robotics, etc. So AI is just augmenting everything. Yeah.
So it's kind of everywhere.
Yeah, it's like everything. Yeah, it's like I know it's being used in churches already. It's like I know it's being used in hospitals. I know it's being used now for elections. So it's like, yeah, where is it not being used in the future?
So educators, I think that there's a little bit of a scare there because our education model is that you study something, you study a parrot fashion, and when it comes to the exam, you spew out what you've just learned. But now there's a lot of questions that are coming around with teachers who are leaders. So the book is written for leaders, but teachers are leaders. They're leading young minds into the future. And in terms of the ethics, how would you say we need to address education, dealing with our children, our pupils, if you are an educator, in dealing with AI in an ethical way?
That is a good question, and I actually had that discussion earlier this week, which was really about how can we, as educators, as teachers, how can we work with AI to prepare our students for the future? Because that is what it's all about. And if you go back to when we started to use calculators, it's the same. That when we started to use calculators in school, that is that we are preparing them for the future when they are sitting by the desk and they have a calculator. Yes, but in the same time, they also need to learn how to calculate in their head for the use cases in the jobs when they don't have a calculator, like when they are out in the field or when they are doing negotiations. And that is the same here. It's like we can use AI for use cases when we will use AI in the future job. But if there are cases where we not will have access to that, then we need to have those skills. So it's coming back to the discussion about what are the skills that we need for the future, and we will need to prepare our kids and students for a future where AI will be available for them at their desk when they're doing work. But we also need to make sure that we're not eliminating the skills that they need for the situations when they don't have AI available. For example, let's say we could have a teacher that is coaching a student to make sure that person can really create a good study technique, and that is good for getting the student through school. But what can the student do after the school? So I think my main sentence that I gave to this person during this discussion was really like, you need to focus more on the so what, on the application, but you need to prepare them for whatever they learn in school. How can they apply it afterwards? So it is a big paradigm shift for schools at the moment, because it's been the same for a very long time, and hence it is about time. So it's more about like, okay, what have I learned and how, and what are the bullet points I needed to write down. But now it's like, okay, if this is what I learned and this is how I should do it, how can I apply it? Why am I learning it? So it's more about the purpose of why and how I can apply it afterwards. So it is a tough time for teachers, because they need to really get back and tweak their material, tweak their teachings in a style to make sure that they are motivating the students to really think deeper about why is this skill important in the future, to motivate them to really think a step ahead on the application.
So perhaps the job of being a teacher needs to shift more from being a teacher to a facilitator and a coach, so that students are starting to get those skills, those thinking skills on how to take what I've got and create something of value in the future.
Yeah. That, and on that subject as well, we had a think tank here in Stockholm, Sweden, a couple of months ago, where we discussed this about what are the changes that will happen in the society. And one of the questions that was brought up was actually, okay, with AI and with VR, virtual reality, and with augmented reality, so with those glasses, and so with glasses where we can really project movies, and we can then also send feedback directly to each student at the same time. So each student get individual feedback at the same time. I mean, that's what you can't do that in a classroom at the moment. But if you use VR and AI, then it was like, how long do we really need to go to school for? How many years? It's like, it's the way we're doing the education system today. With individual real-time feedback, we could actually shorten it so much. So it's like, wow, yeah, what is really the future of education system? Because with that capability, you can speed up learning. I mean, that is how you do with learning to fly. Learning to fly as a pilot, you don't fly all those hours, training hours. You are already doing that. You've already been sitting in a simulator for thousands of hours. And that is what we can give to our students to get them for this realistic situation that they can train for. For example, on how to drive a car, or if they would drive a car in the future, or how to communicate. I think the communication skills will be something that needs to be emphasized even more, because it will not come as naturally, because we are diverting our attention to the screens so much.
It's quite interesting what you're saying about shortening the education time, because what I am finding with online schooling, so we homeschool, and although my son is on par with certain subjects, there's other subjects that he's a little bit behind in. But just recently for his mathematics, he jumped up a level. So he went from grade 4 through to grade 5 work. So he's about 4 or 5 months ahead of his peers, but he can be slower in other areas where he needs more help. And that's one of the beautiful things I'm finding about that is, in a classroom setting, everyone is stuck with all the students, and if they are advanced, they get bored. And if they are slower, they feel shame and humiliation. And that can actually largely be removed if they can move at the pace that they can work within that particular subject.
Yeah, and that is such a good example, because that the personalization, the customization, the adaptation you can do to each specific need. We haven't been able to do that before without enormous amounts of resources. That would be like one teacher each for each student. So and now we can do it. So, I mean, we can scale the support we can give to the students in ways that weren't possible 5 years ago. Yeah, so we can finally be more inclusive. Like you said, we can actually cater for the ones who are a bit slower, but also cater for the ones who are a bit quicker.
Correct. So what I also like about your book is you've taken some of the terminology that we kind of find scary. Like, what is generative AI and what is this? And you've just simplified it that we can really understand it and we can look at how to apply it. So just explain to us, what are the main differences on the different kinds of language models and AI? What are those terms that we often just like ignore because we don't know what they mean?
Yeah. So I think among common misunderstanding is that Chat GPT is AI, and that is as saying that Google is the way to search. Google is just the most dominant way to use a search engine online, and that's why we say we Google something. So Chat GPT is one of the conversational chatbots that are available on the internet for anyone who has internet. And that means that conversational chatbot, that is a way that you can actually talk with AI. So you can ask your questions, which is what is called prompting, and you will get the answers back. And hence you can continue with more detailed questions, or you can go in different direction, and you can also turn the conversation around. So you can say, prepare me for a job interview, and you ask me a question and I answer. So that is why it's conversational chat. So you can see it as talking to a human being. So that is the layer that we see when we're using it, and underneath it is the large language model, which is trained on vast amount of data to be able to predict how words are put together. So some people say ChatGPT is smart. ChatGPT doesn't really have the brain. It just have a lot of data to be able to predict what is the most common ways to put words together in sentences. So when you look at it like that, it's like, yeah, but you need a lot of data. And once you know that data, then you will see that it's more common to see a sentence where it says the dog had a leash, instead of saying a human had a leash. So it's going back to really looking at what are the structure of sentences that has been used to train this model. That's why it's called large language model. But what we can see now is that it's not only text, because everything that is language, everything that we can convert into text. We can also use images. So images can be seen as vectors, and hence we can generate images, but we can also interpret images and convert them into text and convert them into vectors. And that's how the image generation is happening. That is happening through numbers. So you have the conversation chatbot on top, and then you have the large language model that is sitting underneath. And that is probably the most confusing discussion in the news. It's the comparison between the different language models and the different versions. And there is a whole science behind that, and which one is most applicable for different things. But the good thing is we're still talking about the overall generative AI, so it's very good for generic use, which is a good way to start off. But then the more you start to see what am I really going to use this for, then you can start to see the subtle nuances in the different models and choose. And you can already do that. You can start to just go into Claude, Perplexity, and Chat GPT, open the windows, ask the same question, and then you will see the difference in the answers. And you can also use Microsoft Copilot. So those four are, I would say, the most common chatbots. That would be the user interface that we would use, and behind that, underneath it, is the large language model.
Thank you for that. I want to find out one last question for our writers in the group. How has writing this book impacted your career?
It's opening up so many doors. It is a topic that is very hot at the moment. So by having a book, it makes me stand out when we talk about speaking engagements. So now I'm planning my book launch tour in Middle East, Asia, and Australia, based on the book. And without the book, it wouldn't have been possible. So it's actually opening a lot of doors at the moment.
And when you wrote the book, you mentioned that you had used AI to break down some of your content into marketing related content, such as posts and other things like that. So just explain how that worked, how you find AI useful in your marketing campaigns.
Yeah, and just to go back to the mindset thing about the book, writing this book was really tough because compared to my previous books, they were flowing much easier. But as this was a topic where it was changing so much and it was so much talk about it, so I got a lot of imposter syndrome during the book creation. So it was an emotional roller coaster, and what really kept me on the line was really to have my target audience, to have my persona really mapped out. Who am I writing this for? So that was really my guardrail throughout the process. Like, yes, I'm writing it for this person, and yes, I'm not considering myself an AI expert. It's like, yes, I'm writing this from a leadership perspective, to really know my role and the audience, to have that clear before I started to write the book. And that also helped me then when I continued to do the marketing content, because then that is the person I was marketing to. It's like, okay, this is the person I want to have, and how can I break down the content? How can I do? What is the best way to do a launch plan? How can I do press releases out of this? How can I do snippets? And then it was so much easier to just continue in a very congruent manner. So I think I would say it all starts with having your target persona in mind, because then it will be a red thread, and it will be so much easier to just continue with the marketing and just cut it up and process the content you already have into new snippets of information, compared to if you were vague about it in the beginning, then it will be like starting over when you do the marketing. Now it's just like reusing everything that is already done.
I like that, and it's one of the things that I usually chat to my clients about when they start the book coaching program, is to know straight up front, who are you writing this for? What problem are you solving through your book? And that just, flows right throughout the writing and right through to the end. Mia, I want to say thank you so much for being on the Write, Learn and Earn show. We're looking so forward to seeing your book expand, and I think that every HR manager should have one, and every entrepreneur should have one, because it really maps out a plan that you can use for your own business. Thank you so much for being here.